Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday and Happy New Year to each and every one of you. Wow. We are let's see. Goodness, we're like just a couple days away from ringing in the new year. It goes by fast, doesn't it, Susan?
Oh my goodness. Yes, indeed.
Crazy. Crazy, crazy. All right, guys. So happy to have you here with me today. And I've got an extra special, juicy clinical topic for you today. Really looking forward to this conversation. Honestly, I'm just super excited to learn about this myself, and because it's an area that I actually have not gotten really any significant training on. So let me share what that is. So today we are going to help your clients finally put an end to the suffering with effective support for histamine intolerance and mast cell activation syndrome. Woo, what a mouthful, right? So really looking forward to having a conversation with Susan Allen. And Susan and I go back quite a ways, right? So I'm just delighted to have a chance to sit down with Susan. She's brilliant. She's awesome. And just a little bit of personal backstory. Susan was very instrumental in my own personal medical journey, which I have shared with some of you, where, I was going to doctor, I don't know, maybe 20 years worth of okay, doctor, I kind of feel like something's not quite right. Like, why do I get colds all the time? Come to find out, and of course, all my labs were perfect, right? Everything looked good on the outside. What was going on was mold toxicity, right? So both my son and I had some really bad mold, just toxicity going on. It was really, really, really bad. So anyway, the brilliant Susan helped me put all that together and helped me kind of rebuild my life, honestly. So I'm really delighted to have her here with us today. So again, today we're going to talk about something a little bit different, although it's my understanding that there is a correlation with people that are sensitive to mold and mast cell activation. So I'm real excited to learn about that. Let me share specifically a few of the bullet points that we're going to be talking about today. So we are going to learn why control of histamine intolerance is a lot more than dietary restriction or special enzyme supplements, how to get answers for mystery symptoms that are often considered unrelated, how clinicians who understand these conditions can literally give life back to their clients, and of course, much more. And Susan Allen, for those of you that don't know her, she really is a nationally recognized dietitian and board certified functional nutrition expert. And I have done at least one of her clinical trainings way back in the day, right, Susan? And I can attest to just the incredible quality and thoroughness of really all the services that she provides. So I am going to turn it over to Susan, because Susan, I would love for you to share a little bit more with our audience about, what you're doing now and just a teeny bit about your journey, how you got in this specific area. I mean, really moving away from teaching or working directly with the patient population, now more into teaching other professionals. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, sure. First of all, Leslie, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very glad to have this platform to talk to your audience and to share this important information that is a topic I think not nearly developed well enough in our standard curricula as clinicians, and even in the functional medicine arena. So I'll just a little bit of backstory here. I started out, straight out of dietitian school, and I was the expert, and I was supposed to know everything. And I quickly learned, tripped into it early, as a matter of fact, that there was a whole nother world out there of nutrition as it fell into the support of functional medicine. Of course, back then, this was 30 years ago. We didn't even call it functional medicine yet
No.
at that
What
time.
did you call it? Like
Integrative medicine,
yeah,
holistic medicine,
holistic,
complementary
right?
care, right, exactly. So, I went, wait a minute, what do you mean there's more? And, I just happened to fall into the right crowd, and they went, well, yeah, there is, and if you want to know more, you can, and then you can really make a difference in the world. And I said, okay, and I took that as a challenge, and got a bunch of additional training, and never looked back, because it was true. There was so much more. There was so much that I didn't learn in school, and I realized I had to learn separately. And I did start to make an incredibly big difference in the cases that I was working on, the doctors that I got to work with, the opportunities, the clinics I got to work in, my own private practice, made more money than I ever thought. And I just walked. Patients would say, "Oh, Susan, why didn't anybody ever tell me this before? Oh my gosh, I can't believe, you're spending so much time with me and you're finding these answers, and I feel better than I ever have in years." And after a while, I just looked around and went, wait a minute, my colleagues are out there missing the boat. It's
Yeah.
like there's so much more you can do if you just know the rest of the story. And I often am told a lot when I teach. I've been training now for 10 years. I mean, I'm a CPE provider for dietitians. I've often been told, Susan, you say it a lot. It's what you don't know that you don't even know sometimes, right? So it's like, ooh, there's a whole nother world out there, folks. And you can have it too. And your clients can really, really benefit from it when you know the rest of the story. So here I am.
I
Training
love
has
that.
grown. You were in the first class. You were.
I was. You remember? Yeah, I was. I
It
was.
was. And that was back in 2013. Like I said, it's been 10 years,
Yeah.
2012 even. And back then, I think it was 40, 50 hours of training. Now it's a whole program that's developed over time, over 350 hours.
Wow. So it's really
Yeah.
expanded.
Well,
Amazing.
the more you know, the
And
more
that
you can
was
help.
my foray into functional nutrition.
That's what it
So
is.
that really started my personal and my professional journey.
Mhm,
So back in 2013, which is
mhm.
hard to believe, it's already been 10 years. So
I know.
amazing. Yeah. So Susan is just a fantastic teacher and mentor, and really, really knows her stuff. Like, that's just putting it mildly. So anyway, all right, let's delve into this wonderful topic. I'm so looking forward to learning more. I think a great place for us to start is really by defining, what are we talking about here? What exactly is histamine intolerance and mast cell activation syndrome? And are they the same thing or are they separate things?
Well, all right. So let's start at the beginning. Histamine is one of the mediators released by mast cells. Mast cells being an important cell in our immune system. Histamine is a physiologically active amine. It's found all over plants, animal tissue. It's released from our mast cells as part of our allergic reaction or part of an immune reaction. Again, it's one of many mediators. We focus on histamine a lot in the dietetic world because there's a lot of foods that are sources of histamine. But to be sure, and it's, I have 20 hours of training on this topic. There's a whole lot more about the bigger picture of mast cell, but anything that disrupts the immune system and makes one more hypersensitive
Right.
could get you in trouble
Okay.
in many categories. But histamine is the big one. And not only is it part of allergic reactions, it can act as a neurotransmitter. There are several different kinds of receptors for it. And our immune system's normal response is an inflammatory response. In other words, this is essential. It's the way the body defends itself against bacteria, viruses, and other foreign bodies. It's when it is too high or too low, this reaction, where we have problems.
So when it goes a little bit haywire, right?
Right, and here comes the problems. The part of the normal inflammatory response is what? Dilation of capillaries, the constriction of blood vessels, and the intestinal support, smooth muscle, bronchial, heart rate, blood pressure. All those are normal responses. But again, when the histamine is in excess and it hits all the different types of receptors, in comes a myriad of unwanted symptoms. And it can be really, really life altering to deal with these symptoms.
What are the symptoms?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because the list is long and I'm not going to name them all, but think about, when we think histamine, we think about typically what? Runny nose,
Yeah.
Sneezing, sometimes congestion, hives, right? That's a histamine type reaction that we commonly think of. But these reactions can go well beyond. Asthma can be rooted in histamine or other mast cell mediated responses. Flushing, it's not just for menopause anymore. A lot of stomach stuff, which is nowhere ever connected. Stomach pain, nausea, reflux, acid reflux. And we have the constant throat clearing, and migraine, right? Mood disorders even, and gosh, even insomnia.
Okay. It's all over the board, like literally all over the board.
And how many of these conditions they're diagnosed and treated specifically within that tunnel for which they are? And we have a drug for every single one of those things that I just listed. And yet that's all it is. It's controlling the symptoms.
Right. Putting a Band-Aid on each of those individual symptoms rather than really like this. It sounds like this is really exploring the root cause once we can uncover this particular syndrome going on.
Absolutely.
So how do we how can we identify this syndrome? Like, is there a test for it?
There are many tests. I have a whole section on testing in my training. The problem with tests in this category is they're variable, and it's oftentimes hard to get the response from a test when you're not necessarily having a response, right? So in other words, if you were going to measure histamine, and you can measure whole blood histamine, but if you're not reacting at that moment in time, it'll come out negative. And that's the most frustrating thing for clients, because they're told that all their blood work is fine. And that's if they even get somebody to do any specialized blood work. Most of the time it comes out as allergy testing. So there's patients who go to their doctor and say, seems like I have all these hypersensitivities, these allergies. The doctor says, okay, go see the allergist, and they do all the testing, and it comes out like negative. And people they're so frustrated because they know there's something wrong if it's one of those symptoms that are allergy-like, and then but they don't have an answer. It's like, allergic to what? It's not there. So one of the things that should trip you into thinking maybe this is a mast cell and or histamine is that it is for the symptoms that don't otherwise have the answer. And especially when they vary, they come and they go. Oftentimes people will identify food triggers. That's another big one that helps you understand. So food triggers like histamine containing foods or other amine containing foods like tyramine containing foods. So think cheeses, especially really ripe cheeses. Spinach is a big one. Can be perfectly healthy food, but you're going to have your reaction to it. Okay. Alcohol is a big one. A lot of people have been triggered lately during the holidays. Yeah. Wine, particularly. Yes. If you're the person that has a glass of wine and the next thing you know, your face is all red.
Oh, okay. So that's a big sign, right?
That is. More processed. The more processed foods you have, the more you could react. Fermented foods are also a big trigger. Again, a great class, a healthy class of foods, but they're going to be triggers for the people who are sensitive here. Mushrooms, soy sauce, chocolate, unfortunately.
All the good stuff. Wine, chocolate.
Right. Yeast containing foods. The list just goes on and on and on. And people will vary in their responses. But leftovers. If in fact that's something you should always be probing. Do certain foods cause you more grief after they've been, the next day or 2 days later or 3 days later? I myself have dealt with histamine a lot over time. And I know that's another reason that I've really dug deep into this topic. I know initially I didn't have any training on it at all. Then I had 4 hours, then I had 8 hours. And like I said, the more I learned to help myself, now it's 20 hours. It's that there's just that much more to know. So there's these foods, but it's also about how you break down the histamine from these foods. So there's another layer of it as well. And now sometimes this is where genetics can factor in. So I know genetics is still new for a lot of clinicians, but I highly recommend, especially anybody practicing in the functional medicine realm, that they really embrace genomics, the study of genomics, because you can really get some different areas here. And so I include a lot of that in my training and the work I do with clients. So there's a few main ones. Methylation is something a lot of us know about. Well, methylation can be part of the way we process histamine. So those folks with weak methylation may have a problem in this area. There's an enzyme that helps break down histamine. It's called diamine oxidase, or DAO. Okay. So now you can have a SNP you can have a genetic variant, which means yours doesn't work so good. There's a problem. So that's why people will vary in their reactions, is because some people it's a DAO issue, and it's like, how many histamine containing foods would you have, foods/beverages, at any one particular time? And then do you have enough DAO to break it down? DAO is also a vitamin B6 dependent enzyme. And so you may not have a SNP at all. And here's a mistake people make, is they get their genetic report and they say, oh, DAO, you don't have that variant, you're fine, it's not your DAO. Well, it still could be if you don't have enough active B6 on board, not just B6 pyridoxine, but the active form of B6. And not all of us are also genetically really great at converting pyridoxine to pyridoxal 5-phosphate. So we talk all about that in the training. But there's other variants as well. There's even an HDC, histidine decarboxylase, and that's the one that converts histamine to histidine to histamine in the first place. So there's a lot of physiology in the background that you want to know about, because the more you know, the more you can dig down underneath the imbalances and causes of these reactions that people have, because otherwise what you're doing, and I see this happen all the time, is it stops at, well, here's the histamine diet, extremely restrictive and frustrating for patients to follow over time. And here's your DAO enzymes. And like, again, it could be a DAO issue. Maybe it's not a DAO issue. Sometimes those enzymes help, sometimes they don't. And sometimes it really depends on how well you follow the diet. And again, that diet just gets so old and restrictive, and you lose a lot of good nutrient containing foods because of that list if you're avoiding it continually. So the biggest mistake I see clinicians make is to simply control the situation, try to control the situation with diet and enzymes. There is just so much more.
Okay. So obviously we want to dig deeper here, right?
Well, you have to look for the triggers. Exactly. And so
even though there's this big list of foods you should avoid
initially, while you're getting the rest of the story. right?
Okay.
You never want to stop there. You want to get the rest of the story because we want resolution for this.
I see.
So now, oh, now it's time to put the detective hat on.
Okay.
And now this is where functional really comes in. Those who are more trained in functional, they know this list to go down. They know the deeper discovery that needs to take place. Gut bacteria can actually produce histamine. Dysbiosis can affect leaky gut, can
Okay.
affect the microbiome. All of that can be a milieu that is something that overactivates the immune system. And until you get down to what's going on in the gut, you're going to constantly be plagued. You see, those are the people who have to stay off these histamine foods forever and ever. It's just not necessary if you understand what's below it. There's certain medications that can be triggers, infections, people who have chronic viral infections, like you talked about in the beginning here, biotoxin, mold
Yeah, let's
toxicity.
talk about that. Yeah, how is
Mold.
that connected? That always
Well,
confused.
again, anytime you have infections or burdens to the immune system, biotoxin is a huge burden to the immune system. What you're looking at here is the immune system's just constantly on alert. It's high alert and it's like, what's coming
Mhm.
next? What's coming next? And as it does that, you get to the point where it triggers on just about anything. Well, you look like you don't belong, and I'm on high alert, and I'm just bouncing off the wall, so I'm just going to have to get you. And and again, because of genetics, everybody may be slightly different in how they present. Which receptors are being triggered,
Okay.
oftentimes tells the story, and that again is what makes it so challenging for clinicians to work with their patients because there's no one clear, distinct picture of
Okay.
histamine intolerance mast cell. And so it's hard
Okay.
to know where to go. People can be sensitive to perfumes and odors. And so a lot of times we think, okay, that sometimes is a detox issue, especially phase one, but it could be this as well. And if you had weakness in detoxification ability, that would be a double whammy. You'd be that hypersensitive person who can't go down the mall across next to the Bed Bath store, right? It's not Bed Bath, Body and Bath.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. You get bothered by people who wear perfume in
Yeah.
sitting next to you, right?
Yes,
Think,
I do.
right?
I
Okay.
do. Yeah,
So
I
um,
really do. Like I can get, and I don't get headaches very often, but I can get a migraine like instantly.
and that can
If
be.
if like it's a really strong smell,
Yeah.
especially like fragrances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. And otherwise it doesn't make sense. And otherwise, and it's not all the time, it's sometimes, but we're looking for these connections. And if we see
Right.
more than one, especially if they clump together, heat is a big trigger, any sudden
Oh,
temperature change. So
okay.
if people are doing high intensity exercise, which is supposed to be so great for us, but then they're flushing and they're all of a sudden getting hives, well, there you go. Now you know you're in this category. How many folks have you ever heard of, and I'm sure you have, sunshine allergy? People who
Yeah,
sneeze at the sun, right? My mother
yeah.
used to,
I
so I
actually
have
know
a genetic
someone with any of
component,
that.
right? Right. My
Okay,
mother,
is
that
that a
every time
mast
she
cell
drove me,
issue?
yes,
Is
that can be that.
my
Yes.
goodness.
Yes,
Okay.
and oh, another big one. Hello, and this is definitely part of my ride is estrogen. High estrogen, people with estrogen dominant type of
Yeah.
condition, PMS, ovarian cysts,
Really?
fibroids.
Okay.
It is a trigger, absolutely. And now
Hmm.
think about it. Women who go into perimenopause, we lose progesterone before we lose estrogen. So what happens to the ratio? And so as your progesterone goes down, your estrogen looks like it's too high in relation. And so that sometimes starts the triggering. So be especially cognizant of those clients who fall into that category. I know when I went into perimenopause, that's when I started having asthma. I had asthma as a kid, and that was it. It was done. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, here comes an asthma attack. I'm calling the paramedics. Like, where did this come from? Well, I
Okay.
happen to also be living on a golf course, and this was 10, 12, 15 years ago. So this was a while ago. And on the golf course, spraying of pesticides
Yeah.
constantly in my backyard. I sat there and watched them go through 3 times a week, the big sprayers.
Oh,
That's
that's
a
brutal.
toxic burden. You put a toxic burden on top of an estrogen imbalance, and like, woo, forget it.
Okay.
Along with stress, that's a big one.
Okay.
So people don't understand the connection to stress because we're all under stress. We all have some degree of stress, but stress
Yeah.
can be a huge trigger. So see, in the functional medicine arena, we're taught to go discover what's going on in all these categories, do the appropriate testing to identify imbalances and areas where we can intervene, and even go outside of the nutritionist world into helping folks deal with stress. And it can make a big difference. And if you can find these areas and you can support them, and you know what you're doing in the areas, you can literally, and I've heard it so many times, oh my gosh, for the first time, I'm feeling I'm feeling completely different. Like, that's gone. I can't believe I've had that for so many years. It's gone now. I feel
Wow.
more energy, even fatigue, mysterious fatigue. Doctor,
Right.
look
Like,
at your
why
blood
am I
work,
tired?
right? Blood work's fine, Mrs. Jones. I don't get it. Maybe you're just stressed, and
Yeah.
and
The
you need something
anxiety.
to help you sleep. And mood disorders get in here. How many times are people diagnosed with anxiety, depression, things like that? They get the drugs that correspond to it, and that's the end of the story.
Right.
Well,
A
wait a
lot.
minute. Right? A lot. Exactly. It's sad to see the dichotomy between our conventional medicine approach, especially to mood disorders, and and what the difference is between that and functional medicine. Now, I've watched over the years functional medicine start to move mainstream, and thank goodness. But there's
Right.
still a divide. There's gastrointestinal, same huge divide. And it's like, it just you sometimes want to scream inside, because it's like, no, uh, uh, I know there can be more to do, and it's difficult, because if these clients don't fall into the right hands, they're on a spinning wheel, and they sometimes live with this stuff for their whole entire life.
I know, and it's
Oh,
really a shame. I want to get a little feedback from our audience. So we have a couple of comments. So, hey, Bonnie, welcome. So happy to have you here today. And Bonnie Newland says, I have MCAS, and it was diagnosed because I had severe food related hives. Okay. So it seems like hives is almost a no brainer, right? Almost. Not,
especially the hives that come and go constantly. It's not
yeah.
just a freak incident, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's just all the time. Exactly. Oh, I've had hives so bad before. Again,
Okay.
my own issue with this was certainly motivation to learn more to help others.
So you
And
yourself, Susan, had
oh,
hives.
it used to, Florazone, by the way, for folks out there in this category, it's a homeopathic cream. You can order it through Amazon. Florazone,
Okay.
and it's, oh my gosh, it was my lifesaver, because otherwise I would literally scratch my legs until they bled in the beginning,
Oh
before
my
I knew what was going on. Oh no, it was that bad. It was
horrible.
that bad. I was the throat clearing all the time. I was the person. I used to teach ballet to little girls when I was younger, and I always had congestion, always, always.
Yeah.
And the parents of these children would be like, "Are you sick again?" And I'd be like, I'm not sick. I just have this. I don't know
Right.
why. It's just right. And so, yeah, absolutely. Hives is a big one.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it doesn't, you don't have to live with that forever. And so again, if it's women, and this is much more common in women, again, I think because of that hormone connection. So if you're a woman dealing with these issues, what what age group are you in? What level of hormone in the process of your life cycle of hormones? Where are you? Because sometimes that's a big part of this too.
Okay. I'd love to know from our audience how many of you are familiar with this concept, this syndrome, and just, just kind of curious about your training. If you're seeing it in clinical practice, like give me a little background. I think that would be super helpful. So Bonnie herself has it. And Karen Kennedy, Karen, always good to see you here. Karen, what do you think about the Wine Wand product that claims to eliminate sulfites and histamine from wine? The Wine Wand, it sounds pretty pretty amazing if there is such a magic wand.
There's a lot of potions and products that are out there, and some will have merit to some degree, but I've never seen one that works across the board for everybody. And so I say, try, because you never know if you're that person
Right.
that's going to get more relief than the next person. However, I can't emphasize enough, this is not just about downgrading your symptoms. It's about getting to the root causes.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Right?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so with this syndrome, I just want to make sure I'm clear. So, getting to the root cause, can you elaborate like what is causing the histamine intolerance? So, the histamine intolerance then is not the root cause.
Well, there's histamine intolerance, and I
Yes.
make this distinction because
Okay.
there is a distinction. Histamine intolerance can be isolated,
Okay.
or it can be more of an assault to the immune system, and that gets all of mast cell activation. And again, that can be many different mediators.
Okay.
So histamine foods may be a problem for others. It may be more of the overactive immune system. Histamine is just one thing. That's one part of it. It's a big part of it, and we focus on that because of there's so many histamine containing foods, but tyramine containing foods can cross over, lectin containing foods, oxalates can have a problem, salicylates can have a problem, and they can all be connected. So it just depends on, from one person to the next, how sensitive are you and where do your sensitivities lie? But again, what's the underlying cause? So histamine intolerance could just be, again, like I said in the beginning, you have a lot of histamine sources. You don't realize it, but you're consuming those. You love spinach. You put spinach in your smoothie every morning, right? I mean, it's the healthy thing to do.
Absolutely.
And right, and then you batch cook for the week, and so now you have a lot of leftovers, and you think you're doing yourself a favor, time management, and then whoops, look what happens. And if you don't have enough DAO enzyme, if it doesn't work well enough for whatever reason, hey, maybe you just needed more vitamin B6, but you don't know that. Right, so it could just be histamine intolerance proper, or it could be a full-out immune response. And usually the bigger immune responses come from the bigger categories: leaky gut, dysbiosis, the hormonal imbalances, things like that.
Okay. Okay. It's complex.
It
I mean,
is.
that's my big takeaway right here is it
Yeah.
is complex. It shows up in multiple different like tons of different ways. There's not like a path, right? Where it's like, okay, you've got XYZ symptoms. I know what you got.
Well, that's why that is why this is so challenging. I mean, I even went to try to find the specialists. They're hard to find who know this. In the allergy or dermatology department, it got to the point where I translated or transferred over time. It started out with all the asthma. Then it went to the hives and the itching, and it transformed over time. That the hives started to go away. I was like, yay, awesome. And I see this in clients too. First it's that category, then it's this category. And as things change, it can flip. And so you think it's not related, but it can be. I translated into then getting like little blisters on my legs and arms. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And they're
Oh,
kind of So now they're trying to say, well, it's an autoimmune condition and it's very rare and only people in their 70s get it, but I don't know why you're getting it. And I'm like, how about mast cells? And oh, I'm
Okay.
sure it's not that. I think it is. So,
Okay.
and even that's getting better because again, the more I learn, the more I can help myself,
Wow.
and obviously I teach others to help others. And
Right. I
oh,
mean, this is huge.
it's
This
a
is huge.
challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge because there's not a lot of doctors out there who know much about this. In fact, I remember the most frustrating thing when I saw an allergist a while back.
Okay.
Her answer to me was, "Well, you just need antihistamines." I'm like, "You think?" It's like, so yeah, no. I said, I sort of been there and I still get this stuff. And she goes, well,
Okay.
no, you don't understand. You need histamines 4 times a day. 4 times the normal dose is what she prescribed. And that was her answer. End of story. That's the rest of your
Wow.
life. That's all you need. And don't question me. I'm the doctor. I think I know a little more than you. And there you go. I'm like, oh, so I'm supposed to walk around completely dehydrated and messed up by these. And wait, here's a little factoid people don't know. Histamine is responsible for our gastric acid production.
Hmm.
We need it. Okay, so taking a
Interesting.
quadruple dose of antihistamines helps my hives, helps my asthma a little, but what was it doing to my stomach acid and now my digestion?
Right.
Oh my gosh. So now we're talking about all the people with irritable bowel and the people, all these folks who have SIBO and they don't know it because of the lack of hydrochloric acid. And again, remember, you cannot just have too much histamine. You can have not enough histamine, and
Okay.
that can be a problem as well. So
Oh, wow.
there's
It's
a lot.
way more complex than I would have ever guessed.
Mhm. It
Um,
is.
okay, so we got a couple of just a few more comments that I want to get through really quick. So, Karen says, I see this kick up with women around perimenopause, which makes sense. How much do you think has to do with GI issues and how much could be hormones?
And there's a thing. This is where we put our detective hat on, and now we have to start getting into the functional medicine test to see what's really going on, don't we? So you can do regular hormone testing, right? Your general estrogen, progesterone levels, but looking through the functional medicine lens, we might do a study for a woman who's cycling. We might do a study of checking their hormone levels 11 times a month, like 9 to 11 times a month. In other words, we want to see what their cycle really looks like and where their estrogen progesterone is at any given time during their cycle. And then we match that to symptom presentation, because remember, sometimes are better, sometimes are worse, and there's many things that would factor into that. If you see a lot of symptom kick up around PMS time, be suspicious that it is indeed more rooted in the hormones, or if somebody's in that perimenopause phase. But that doesn't mean GI can't be part of it. And sometimes it's not so much the hormones and it all is GI. But, obviously, if there's GI symptoms, right? Gas, bloating, heartburn, any of that, and you want to stomach pain, and this is where a lot of people get diagnosed with, say, SIBO is becoming a very popular diagnosis, small intestinal
Mhm.
bacterial overgrowth. And I've seen doctors who they get a negative test and they're like, well, I'm going to treat empirically anyway because it looks like SIBO. But wait a minute, there might be another dysbiosis. There might just not be enough of the right kind of good bacteria. So a whole
Mm.
microbiome study, which is more of a functional medicine specialty test, is what's
Mhm.
going to get you more answers. And so we want to look for all of those. We want to look for, and again, how much of this, either you have acid reflux or not enough acid production, which, by the way, not enough acid production can sometimes still show up as reflux. And so that's confusing too. It's like, do I not have enough? Do I have too much? Do I need antihistamine? Do I what do I do? Right? So many times it can be the long or short answer of all that is it could be both. but you can look at clues and symptoms to give you ideas, and then let those symptoms lead you toward further discovery. And we are in the functional medicine realm here to really get the tests that give you the answers that really are most useful. I have a ton of functional medicine testing in my long training, and that's on purpose. It's a tool.
Yeah, it's so important.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. I hope that was helpful, Karen. All right, so let's see. Sorry if I'm like so close to my camera. The writing is like, I need my reading glasses, I guess, for this one. Christine, welcome, Christine. So Christine says, I'm a chiropractor nutritionist and have had it. I now have Hashimoto's, and I know the histamine reaction was a precursor. Okay. Also hit menopause around the same time.
Oh my gosh,
Christine, your head, Chris.
I'm so glad
about Christine's comment.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Christina, absolutely. There's a connection to autoimmune. Think about it. When your immune system is so triggered all the time, and it's so sensitive. And like I was saying before, it's like it's bouncing off the walls. You do tend to move into autoimmune. And like that's where this blistering thing that I had, they're trying to say that's an autoimmune condition. And, again, conventional looks at autoimmune as once they can diagnose autoimmune, they say, therefore it is. You now have autoimmune for the rest of your life. You might as well make that your middle name because that's who you are now.
New identity.
Have to be. I mean, most of us in the functional medicine world, for anybody with Hashimoto's, we would absolutely have you off of dairy and we would have you off of gluten. Now, that may be a long-term thing, but still you want to go back to what's going on underneath it. And can people get out of Hashimoto's? Yeah, I've done it. I've taken we look at the antibodies, we see them way high. We quiet down the immune system. We get to the root of leaky gut and we address environmental toxins, heavy metals. We look at biotoxins. We get all that addressed. It can take a while, but you got to get underneath to that root cause. Once you do, your immune system has a chance to quiet down and regroup and watch those antibodies go down over time. So absolutely look for autoimmune, and anybody who has autoimmune, be suspicious and go, what's going on behind that? Is there a way to quiet that down? Absolutely.
So good.
And if you hit menopause at the same time, whoa, it's like, yeah. So
that is just
right?
A cluster.
Double whammy. Double whammy.
That's a cluster if I ever heard one. All right. All right, Marsha. Welcome, Marsha. I have MCIS and have taken Susan's 20 plus hours of training. This will be my area of focus. All right. Bravo. Congrats.
Yay,
Love
Marsha.
that.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
Marsha's awesome. She's so involved in the training. And now she says, this is going to be my specialty. This is what I'm doing.
I don't know how prevalent. Do you have any sense of the prevalence? I don't know. If there's data.
Here's the thing. So they say the prevalence is only like 2 to 6% of the population. No. And that's because who's diagnosing, who's not even looking. And right. And so it's hard to confirm. It's hard to catch the tests that actually confirm it. You have to be having a histamine reaction. There are doctors who will tell you to cause your own histamine reaction to go get your histamine checked. But at that point in time, I know I got it. So it's like, why go through the grief and the misery? So in other words, it doesn't show up in the statistics nearly as much as I think it's happening, which makes this such a challenging condition. And the more clinicians who can make this a specialty of their practice, wow, are you in the right place at the right time? Because this is happening more and more and more. Why? Because we have more toxins than we ever have. Because we have a more processed food supply than we ever have. Because we have more mold than we ever have.
For sure.
Right? I mean,
and our microbiomes are becoming less healthy, and and
Yes.
we're just unhealthy.
And stress. And look, we just went through stress from a pandemic for the
Right.
last how many years?
And
Right there, you have a higher incidence. And viruses, by the way, can be a trigger. So,
okay.
ooh,
So we're being kind of assaulted on
this
all
isn't the
that.
time to learn about this. I don't know if ever there was,
I think it's
because
so
a lot of your
exciting.
clients will have
Woo!
this to some degree.
Yeah, guys, this is so exciting, isn't it? Like, I got to tell you, if I were doing this work, I would absolutely ramp up my knowledge base. I would take Susan's course, and I'm going to share more about that in just a few moments. But it just feels like such a great time and a great opportunity to really make a difference. Okay, Susan, welcome, Susan. And Susan asked, do you ever use 1 to 2 days of antihistamine to challenge the response?
You can, obviously, if you take an antihistamine and it works,
Yeah.
and then you go off the antihistamine and now you're back in trouble again. Clearly, it's a histamine issue. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be other mediators as well. You still may have to look at tyramine containing foods and salicylates and what have you, but clearly, yeah, that is something that tells you it's a histamine issue. Now, the issue is it a histamine issue because you don't have enough DAO? I don't know. Genetic testing will help you understand.
Okay.
Is it a DAO issue because you don't have enough vitamin B6? Well, we have to look much more deeply into nutrient status testing. And again, here's where functional medicine comes in strong, guys, because you can go test vitamin B6 in your blood. It's going to be pyridoxine. That's not going to tell you if it went to the active P5P. So we want to do functional nutrition training, and that's like organic acid testing. Right, that's like
Interesting.
Genovas of the world, NutriVal type tests, oat testing. Vibrant Wellness has that oat testing. It gives you more of the nutritional status of what actually worked, not just what you consume from your food, not just what's circulating around in your blood, but what actually worked for you. That's the answer that I want when I look at nutritional status.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Okay. Wow, we got some great questions here, don't we, Susan?
Awesome. I
Very
love talking about this. I'm so passionate about what I do. I want everybody empowered to help. So many people need help, and I want to help empower those who can help.
I love that. So that being said, can you tell us a little bit about your program for those listening, and also for all of you that are going to catch the replay? Okay, I know a lot of people watch the replays, so this is also for you, of course. So, Susan, what would you say is the next step? I mean, I think it's really clear why this is so important, and just the incredible difference that we can make as clinicians, because there's a lot of people walking around with this issue and they have no idea, right? They just continue to struggle. They go to doctor. Chances are they walk out, they just don't get answers, right? They just continue to struggle. So what would you say is a good next step for the clinicians here that want to move forward and learn more?
Right. Well, you gotta learn more about it. And like I said, I've packed 20 hours into upcoming training that I have. I have my whole training, my whole certification in functional nutrition. This is one module that you can take this separately. And hey, if you jump in and you say, whoa, I should learn all of this, I got that too. But right now, this is the topic of the day. This training is a double weekend intensive that is starting this month. It is the weekend of the 14th, 14, 15, and 21, 22. And that is, it's a double weekend intensive. So it's a full day of webinars from 11 to 4:30 each of those 4 days. All my live webinars are also recorded for review after the fact. And it is something, so in other words, get it in, down and dirty, 2 weekends. We're going to learn it all. And then we have some case studies in there. I mean, we go through all the different categories, everything in detail. So you're going to feel a lot more comfortable with this knowledge by the time you're finished. And you're going to be able to hit the ground running to actually put this into practice and to help folks do that. So that's coming up. You should see it on your screen, the link to go there and look at the information, read more about it. Right now we're on a pre-special. So before the series starts, we always have special trainings, special pricing, and this is the time to grab that. Also, you can become a Next Level Functional Nutrition member if you aren't already, and you get an additional 10% off.
Oh, nice.
We have a two payment plan, one pay or two payment plan. So right now there's early bird discount, there's member discount if you want it, and I think for your audience, Leslie, we're just going to have to give them another 10% off. What do you think?
Oh, well, yay! That makes me so happy. Thank you.
I just want this information in everybody's hands because we're all going to get out there and help the world. So when you register, you can use either coupon code for full pay or for payment plans. I'm gonna let this be good now through the 31st. I'm gonna let this be good up until the 1st of January. That's it. It's done just the next few days. So it's gonna be FB Live, as in Facebook Live. FB Live. That's for full pay. Does it matter
uppercase, lowercase?
Nope. And that's for full pay, another 10% off. And then if you want to do the payment plan, the two-pay payment plan, it's FB Live PP payment plan. So FB Live for full pay, FB Live PP for the payment plan. You're going to get another 10% off. And it's like I want to help any way I can. I know we just all spend a boatload of money on our holidays, but this is a gift to yourself. If you want to really make a difference, here's an area where you can do that. You just need to know more about it. You need to have the confidence to do what you can do best with this. You need to have your toolbox expanded, and I'm going to give that all to you in this training.
That is not what I.
It's not what you typed.
It's not what I typed.
We love Facebook Live.
I do not know. Okay, let me give this a try again. That is so strange. Okay.
FB Live.
It is not. Okay, FB Live and FB Live PP. All right, let's try this again.
Full pay or payment plan?
Okay, let's see. Did I get that right? FB Live.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter or no pay. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Those are coupon codes, guys.
Those are the coupon codes to save an additional 10% on top of already the early bird pricing. And if you're Next Level Functional Nutrition member, you get another 10% off. If you're not and you want to become a member, do the membership first. And then you log in as a member, and that's when you get that additional 10%. So it's savings galore. This is the perfect time. We're starting a new year. This is the time to reinvent yourself and get excited and jazzed about what we're going to do this year. You can add yourself to the list to be that much more helpful for these folks who get stuck in this gray area, and they need you so bad. They need us all to be equipped to help them with this very challenging area.
Yeah, life's too short to continue to suffer.
It is. So nextlevelfunctionalnutrition.com is the, Next Level Functional Nutrition is my training, and .com is where you can learn all about all the different programs that I have. But Leslie had a link here specifically.
Yeah, let's see. Let me find that link again.
To go directly. There you go. That'll take you directly. That'll take you directly to this histamine training. So if you want to get it there fast, that's where you're going. All right. So Next
Level. They go there first, and then they enter the coupon codes, right?
Right. And then the coupon codes, FB Live and FB Live PP. So we want to see as many on board as possible here, because this is going to change. It's going to rock your world. It's going to rock your client's world. This will change the trajectory of your practice, knowing this. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
It's so
exciting.
We're
here to make a difference. We're here to make a difference, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I just know, obviously this is a different scenario, but just, having a name for the struggle is also, I think, really important for the patient perspective, because
Such relief.
honestly, I think they're used to just being told, you're a hypochondriac, you're so difficult, it's all in your
All
head,
in
there's
your
nothing
head.
to you. And,
Right. Or
just
you
like,
just need to take 4 times the amount of antihistamines and you'll be fine.
like, duh, you know? Um, so
Oh,
I just love the idea that, we can dig really deep, really, who would have thought? I mean, I got pretty excited when I think about how our field has evolved. Okay.
oh,
Now I know
right.
this is a whole nother topic and I digress.
Right.
But okay, I've been around the block here myself, right?
Mhm.
And let me tell you, when I was learning the 4 food groups, I wasn't really imagining that someday we would be here.
There's so
So
much more. Yeah.
I get pretty fired up about the evolution of what we're able to do. So, guys, I would say grab the bull by the horns. I don't want to sound cliche, but really, this is a great opportunity for you guys. So, all right. So time flies. Any parting words of wisdom that you want to share, Susan, before we wrap up?
Oh gosh, I've talked a lot. I
Yeah,
think
you did.
bottom
I think everyone got it.
bottom line is empower yourself
Yeah.
to be at the level you imagined you'd be at when you became a coach, a clinician in the first place,
Yeah.
right? You said, I want to do this because I want to be a healer. I want to enable people to get to a higher level of health. I want to make a difference. Then I invite you. I
Yeah.
invite you to go to the highest level that you can in your ability to do just that. And I found over the years that functional nutrition is a key way to do it. A key way to do it. I have never been more jazzed about anything I've done in my life. And it's because I know that I'm fulfilling that mission to help others. And now in all my years of training, the mission to help other clinicians help others. So
Right. So yeah, and you can like exponential impact in the world. That's what
totally. That's what it's all about. And that's why I focus a lot on training these days, because it's about spreading the wealth and making this a real thing that makes the big difference that people dearly need.
That's right. All
Yeah.
right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Susan, so very much for sharing your wisdom about this important topic. And I really want to recommend everyone check out Susan Allen's, site. Look it up, check it out, and specifically, I would jump on this topic. So, if you guys have any questions, feel free to add some comments. You can tag Susan and/or myself in the comments. If you're watching the replay, we'll help you out. In the meantime, hope you have a wonderful and safe New Year holiday. And I will look forward to seeing you again 2023, right? Right around the corner. Yay. All right, guys.
Thank you for having me, Leslie.
My
Thanks so much.
pleasure. Absolutely. Okay, guys, take care. Have a great rest of your day, an awesome holiday. Be safe and happy. And I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.